In the darkness before dawn, an iron ship strikes a hidden reef. In that frozen moment, over 600 souls face the icy sea, and a choice between panic and calm heroism. This is the story of the RMS Birkenhead, a maritime disaster that gave birth to a legend. The RMS Birkenhead was a marvel of its time, an iron-hulled steamship launched in 1845, a symbol of British naval power. She had carried passengers across the Atlantic and was now tasked with delivering soldiers to the front lines of the Cape Frontier Wars in South Africa. In January 1852, the Birkenhead steamed away from the British Isles, carrying over 600 people, soldiers of the 73rd Regiment of Foot, families accompanying their husbands, and the ship's crew. The voyage was uneventful as she cut through the cold Atlantic waters, her black hull slicing through the waves like a blade. The men spoke of home, of the battles ahead, and of the lives they hoped to return to once the campaign was won. By late February, the Birkenhead neared the rugged coastline of South Africa. The seas were deceptively calm, the moonlight glinting off the water like silver. On the night of February 25th, the soldiers slept soundly, unaware of the danger lurking below the surface. At around 2 a.m., on February 26th, disaster struck. The Birkenhead plowed into an uncharted reef near Danger Point with a jolt that tore through her iron hull. The sudden, violent impact wrenched men from their bunks, the darkness shattered by the crash of metal on stone. Cold seawater rushed into the lower decks as the ship began to list sharply. Panic and confusion swept through the ranks. Lanterns swayed wildly as soldiers and sailors tried to make sense of the chaos. The Birkenhead's crew knew immediately that the situation was dire. There were not enough lifeboats for everyone. Captain Robert Salmond and Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Seaton took charge. In that moment of terror, they made a decision that would echo through history. Calmly, they ordered the soldiers to stand in formation on the slanting deck, their boots braced against the cold iron as the sea spray lashed across their faces. The women and children were to be saved first, no matter the cost. The soldiers obeyed without question. They lined up in silent ranks as the ship's few lifeboats were lowered into the churning sea. Mothers clutched their children, tears streaking their faces as they were handed down to the boats. The soldiers did not waver. They knew there would be no place for them in the lifeboats. As the lifeboats pulled away into the cold, dark sea, the men of the Birkenhead stood fast. The deck tilted steeply beneath their feet, the ship groaning in her death throes. The cold Atlantic wind cut through their uniforms, but they did not flinch. In a final, shuddering moan, the Birkenhead broke apart. The iron hull split, and the sea poured in. The soldiers remained at attention until the very last moment. As the bow of the ship disappeared beneath the waves, they were still there, shoulder to shoulder, silent witnesses to their own fate. Of the nearly 650 souls aboard, fewer than 200 survived. Most of the survivors were the women and children, carried to safety by the few lifeboats. The soldiers' unwavering discipline and courage bought them those precious minutes that meant the difference between life and death. This final act of selflessness became known as the Birkenhead drill, the unwritten law of the sea, women and children first. It was a phrase that would echo through maritime history, spoken with reverence wherever men took to the water. For the men of the Birkenhead, there were no headstones, no monuments on land. Their grave was the cold, restless Atlantic. But their story lives on, a testament to human dignity and the power of courage when the darkness comes. To this day, sailors and historians remember the Birkenhead not just as a shipwreck, but as a symbol of honor and sacrifice. In the deep, cold waters off Danger Point, the echoes of that final drill still whisper, a reminder that even in the face of certain death, the human spirit can stand fast and unafraid. Thank you for listening to the Sunken Ledger. Subscribe for more true tales from the depths.